What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Five Star Pod Splash. I am your host, Andre Harris. Today, we are going to be breaking down the top 10 Sega Dreamcast video games voted on by 14 different groups this time, man. Salute to everybody. Salute to all the different groups. Real quick, I just want to shout out all the groups who I put this poll in, who took the time to participate. I really appreciate all the people who took the time, that one quick 1-2 minute to cast their votes in, you know what I'm saying, so that we could get a pretty accurate count of the top 10 video games. This by far had the most votes overall. Total, there was crazy numbers, man. So I just want to shout out all the groups real quick, from Game Haven to Rare Form Gaming, Off the Ropes, Fade World Order, Afro Saiyan, Just Some Black Gamers, the Black Gamer Multiverse, the NWA group, Unbiased Battle Rap group, the Angry Fan Battle Rap group, Black Gamers Planet, Fades in Anime, Dreamcast Hub, and Gamers Over 30. Man, we had such a crazy amount of people that put their votes in this time. It was ridiculous. I have to do a lot of math this time, man, because the numbers were high as hell, man. So salute to everybody who did their vote and everything. Before I get into the honorable mentions and then the top 10, I just want to give a shout out real quick. To a couple games that didn't get on the honorable mention or the top 10 list, but they definitely did their thing. They definitely had a lot of votes. It just wasn't enough to crack the top 15. Games like Ready to Rumble 2 was almost in there, but just didn't make the cut. I'm surprised Shenmue number 2 didn't make the cut. NFL 2K didn't make the cut. It was close, but it didn't make the cut. Dead or Alive 2 did some numbers, but it just wasn't enough. Resident Evil Code Veronica just didn't do enough. It definitely did its numbers. I'm surprised this game didn't make the top 10, at least top 15. Tom Clancy Rainbow Six, I recall that being a big game on the Sega Dreamcast when that came out. Did all type of awards and stuff. Legacy of Kain didn't even crack the top 15. Shout out Sonic Shuffle didn't make the top 15. Like a Sonic video game not in the top 15. That's how many votes. It was like ridiculous all across the board. WWF Royal Rumble just barely didn't make honorable mention. It was probably the closest out of the games that I mentioned on this list outside of Ready to Rumble 2. And ECW Hardcore Revolution did its numbers, but just not enough to crack into that top 10 or honorable mention. Now, with that out the way, before I get started on the honorable mentions and then the top 10, I just want to take a quick moment to say, make sure if y'all on Facebook to go search for The Whole Effing Show, exactly as it's spelled, right down there at the bottom of the screen, and follow and like my gaming channel. That's where I post the previous episodes of 5-Star Pod Splash, along with other gaming content. You could also follow on Twitch at the same handle, The Whole Effing Show. Also, you could go to Top Shelf TV on YouTube. Probably hard to find me on YouTube because, you got to have like a lot amount of followers to pop up first on that search bar. I have people have a hard time finding me on YouTube TV or YouTube. So, if anything, I probably just recommend Twitch or the Facebook gaming channel for now. And then, I got a little podcast, 5-Star Pod Splash. I need to get more active on that. But for now, let's get into these honorable mention before we crack into the top 10. So the honorable mention coming in at number 5, this will technically make them number 15 on the top 10 list for Sega Dreamcast games, is Phantasy Star Online. I ain't gonna front, bro. I never played Phantasy Star Online. I'm familiar with it mainly because of the dude that was entered into Marvel vs. Capcom 2, like kind of gave me a little bit of awareness of Phantasy Star Online, but I never was one of them games I checked out. Obviously, I love the cover art, like being an artist, like the artwork is fire right there. But I never really, I can't get divulged too much into this game because I never really I never really played it. So just keeping it funky. I act like I played every single game on the system. So I'll take y'all word for it. This being this high up on the list, it beat out a lot of games that I just mentioned, from Ready to Rumble 2, Dead or Alive 2, a Resident Evil, a Sonic game, the Shenmue, which was highly acclaimed on the Sega Dreamcast, even though Sega Dreamcast had a short run, short lifespan. But Phantasy Star Online ended up getting honorable mention number 5, coming in at honorable mention number 4. So technically number 14, if there was a top 15 list, would be House of the Dead 2. I played this game, but I played this game at the arcade. This game was fun as a motherfucker on the arcade, bro. I ain't gonna hold you. But on the Dreamcast, I think because I just played it so much at the arcade, and just because how the arcade is just more fun because it already come with the gun. You ain't got to buy no extra stuff. And probably just because I already beat it at the arcade, probably the reason I didn't get it for the Dreamcast. But the House of the Dead was definitely a fun shoot 'em up game at the arcade. I didn't really play it on the Sega Dreamcast, but apparently enough people did to where they got it ranked as an honorable mention over those games that I mentioned previously. Coming in for honorable mention number 3, this game, if it wasn't for so many groups at like halfway through the voting process, this game was top 10, but then it just fell out by the time all the totals were tallied up, and that is Crazy Taxi number 2. Crazy Taxi number 2. Man, the Crazy Taxi franchise in general is really a great. They only had 2 games, but man, like on the Sega Dreamcast, it was doing its thing. They had a lot of commercials, a lot of hype around these games, and it was a fun game. I did actually play Crazy Taxi 1 and 2. Me personally, I prefer number 1, maybe just because like I always like the original more than the second for the most part. There's a couple games where I make an exception, but for the first part, I mainly put the original over the second because the second's just like it'll probably add a couple of things, but it doesn't do too far to like expand out of what the first one. So it's like basically running off the foundation of the first one. But with this game, Crazy Taxi 2 coming in for honorable mention number 3, so that technically would make it 13 on the list. But again, this is called top 10, so it just gets an honorable mention. Coming in at number 2, man, I can't be mad. I would be mad if I only kept this to like 4 or 5 groups for the votes. But considering there was 14 different groups that voted, I can't be mad because, you know, it was a lot of votes. So, but I'm shocked this didn't make top 10, honestly. And that is Shenmue. Like, this was one of them. Man, this game was super popular. Like, I ain't gonna front, it wasn't one of my favorite games, but like, just because it wasn't my favorite game doesn't mean I can't recognize that it was a lot of other people's favorite games. You know, I did play this game. It was fun, you know, like just like one of those like all around, like you could go wherever you want, pretty much type games. 3D for at that time was on point, man. Like this was a real fun game. A lot of people rocked with it. You know, I was more into the fighting games, so like it wasn't in my personal top 10, but like I know it did its numbers. I know it was highly regarded. So like in a lot of Sega Dreamcast, even though you probably won't see a lot because Sega Dreamcast don't have a lot of, it didn't have such a long lifespan to where people don't constantly talk about it. It doesn't ever really get its due, but it had a lot of good games on it. And this would definitely be on a lot of people's list if it was probably regulated to like 1 group or 2 groups. This will probably crack a lot of top 10s in a lot of groups separately, but overall it just didn't make top 10. It came close, but it just fell short. And this is another game. This game right here is definitely in my top 10 personally, but it did not make the top 10 just by a couple votes. I think like 2-3 votes it fell out of the top 10. And that is Ready to Rumble boxing. Bruh, Ready to Rumble, this was like the first game I can recall playing on the Sega Dreamcast. And just like many boxing games, from Knockout Kings, you know what I'm saying, to Mike Tyson Punch-Out, man, like what boxing game is not fun, bro? Like, damn, I have a hard time thinking of a boxing game that was not fun to play. Like, this game was the shit to me. It definitely is in like my top, if not my top 5, definitely in my top 10 Sega Dreamcast games. Again, it's like the very first Sega Dreamcast game I owned. Man, I remember me and my boys used to play the shit out of this game, bro. So like, I'm mad it didn't make that top 10 personally, but I cannot argue with the general consensus. There was way too many groups, way too many votes for me to disregard the majority's decision on this one. So Ready to Rumble coming in at honorable mention number 1, technically 11. Now let's get into the meat and the bones, man. Let's get into that top 10. This is what this show is called. It's called Top 10 for y'all just now tuning in. And make sure y'all go follow the whole effing show on Twitch and on Facebook Game Streaming or Top Shelf TV on YouTube. If you do YouTube, it's going to be a little harder to find because I ain't got too many followers right now. So I suggest just sticking to Twitch and the Facebook gaming channel. But top 10, one of my favorite fighting games of all time, bro. I'm mad this ain't higher up on the list, but I said the same thing about Ready to Rumble. I'm just glad it made the top 10, because if it didn't make the top 10, that would be a travesty. I'm talking about Street Fighter 3, man, Third Strike, bruh. There was so much. We got one of the most greatest gaming tournament moments of all time in this game. I'm talking about the Perry Ken versus Chun-Li, bruh. That was one of the most epic moments in Evo history, bruh. Third Strike, man, just new cast for the most part. You had a couple of the OGs like Akuma, Ken, and Ryu, Chun-Li, but for the most part, you had a lot of new people stepping into the fray from Alex, man. You had Dudley, man. Yeah, it was a fun-ass game, bro. Like, when I was in college, it re-sparked my love for this game because I played this back when the Dreamcast came out, but when I went to the San Diego Art Institute, they had arcades inside the school. And they had 2 arcades inside the school. And this was one of them games people used to go crazy on, bro. Like, we used to have tournaments at the college on this game right here. And, man, I ain't gonna front. I was a scrub, bro. I was trying to get busy, but, man, the fools, like, it was just a different level at that school, man. Like, everybody knew, like, one-hit combos and all that crazy shit. You know what I'm saying? Parry and everything, like, crazy. Definitely made me have to step my game up. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike coming in at number 10. Salute to y'all for putting Street Fighter into the top 10, because that's one of my favorite franchises. That's probably my favorite franchise in all of gaming, is just the Street Fighter. I grew up in the arcades. I'm an old head, so I grew up in the arcade, man. Street Fighter 2 and Turbo and Special Edition, Championship Edition, Alpha, 1, 2, 3, Third Strike, man. Even the EXs, man. If it was a Street Fighter game, I was playing it, man. It didn't matter what it was. Even if it was a trash one like the EX, I'd still play it. It was still my shit. Coming in at number 9 on the list is Jet Set in Japan, Jet Grind Radio, man. This was a fun game. Very fresh concept, bro. Like, this game, similar to Parappa the Rapper, just had its own life and its own swag, its own lane. Like, it just set itself apart from everything else because it was just so indifferent. Even the graphics on this game were indifferent from, like, a lot of the other games, you know, like, so shout out to Jet Grind Radio. Definitely had its own attitude, its own style, swag to it. Coming in at number 9, well deserved, man. So Jet Grind, Jet Set Radio, whatever you want to call it, it's number 9 on the top 10 list. It did some high numbers. I ain't gonna front, man. Coming in at number 8 on the list, I'm mad that it took. For one, I think Street Fighter 3 is better than this game. But that's not to say this game isn't top 10. It will definitely be on my top 10 as well. It just wouldn't be higher in my personal top 10 than Street Fighter 3. But it's sad it took Street Fighter Capcom for King of Fighters to make the list. I'm talking about Capcom versus SNK, man. Like, Capcom versus SNK, man, we finally got that matchup we've been wanting. Ryu versus Terry, bro. You know what I'm saying? Joe versus Ken. Andy versus Ken. You know what I'm saying? There was just so many dope matchups on here. Kim from SNK, man. You got Mai from SNK, man. It was just a fire game. I'm glad this game got its due. I didn't think people were going to be woke on this game. I thought people were going to be sleeping on this game. But damn, it did its numbers. And to get into number 8, with considering the competition that it had to go up against, man, salute to Capcom versus SNK for cracking the top 10, coming in at number 8. Coming in at number 7, this one kind of surprised me. Like, I fuck with it. I don't know if it would make my top 10. It probably would, but it'd be like definitely like 10 through 8 or something like that, or maybe even 7. So I can't be too surprised. I'm just surprised how many people rocked with, considering some of the games that didn't make the list. But Soul Calibur, the OG Soul Calibur, coming in at number 7. I think it was Soul Calibur 2 that had Spawn in it. That's one of the things about Soul Calibur franchise I love, was every new Soul Calibur, you get someone new, from Darth Vader, Zelda. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was always some dope person from out of nowhere. It kind of remind me of Smash Brothers in that sense, where they just bring in people you would not expect because they weren't Nintendo originally, you know what I'm saying? But to be thrown into that fray, dope So Soul Calibur definitely getting its flowers this time around. I don't think it's better than Street Fighter 3. I don't know if I would even put it better than Street Fighter versus SNK, but it doesn't matter what I think because it matters what the people think. The people have spoken, and the people said Soul Calibur is number 7. It's better than Street Fighter 3 and Capcom versus SNK. The people spoke. I'm just one man. I cannot be mad, y'all. Y'all outweigh the opinion of one person. Coming in at number 6, this would have been in my top. This would have probably been in my top 3. I ain't even gonna hold you, man. Power Stone, man. What happened, Capcom? What did you do with this game? This game and Rival Schools was like 2 brand new series that y'all started that y'all just like forgot about, but they were both fire, both completely new cast, wild map, game replay value. Mad people used to play this. This was my shit right here, man. Power Stone 1 coming in at number 6, bro. If you ain't play Power Stone, then I just assume you ain't had a Sega Dreamcast, bro. This game was just another one of them games, had its own lane, like so different from the other fighting games. It was a fun fighting game because it'd be 4 people fighting at once. The Dreamcast had the connection to where you could plug 4 controllers up, so it'd be easy for 4 people to just jump on at the same time, similar to like a Nintendo 64 or whatnot. You know, like 3D stage, you could go anywhere on the stage, you know what I'm saying, side scroll or whatever. You could grab these items to like, you know, it kind of like a Smash Brothers with better graphics, but just less known characters and a different mechanics to a certain degree. But man, this was a fun game. So Power Stone, Capcom, y'all need to definitely bring back the Power Stone series because man, Power Stone was the shit. Coming in at number 5 on the list, this game was heavily promoted when Dreamcast short run on commercials, TV, in the gaming books from GamePro and everything. And that is Crazy Taxi, the original Crazy Taxi, very popular, highly regarded. You know what I'm saying? Wasn't super big on a lot of driving games, but this was one of those ones kind of like Road Rash, where it's just like, bro, this was too fun. It just set itself apart. It did just enough to set itself apart from like the Need for Speeds and the Gran Turismos, make it a little bit fun, put a little extra little spice on it, you know. Crazy Taxi definitely would have probably made my top. Maybe it's probably would have been where it would have ranked on my personal list, maybe a little lower, maybe 6 or 7. But Crazy Taxi, the people have spoken, have put it at number 5 on the list for top Sega Dreamcast games. We are getting close to the big 3. Coming in at number 4, and this just missed getting into the top 3 by 3 votes, is Sonic Adventure 2. For a minute, this was looking like I said it only didn't make top 3 by 3 votes, but Sonic Adventure 2, man. Man, I ain't going front. Like, I played Sonic Adventure 2, but for the most part, like, my memory, like, when I thought back about it, like, I had to think hard on it, because, like, I recall Sonic Adventure 1 clearly, but Sonic Adventure 2, I almost like forgot that it was even on the Dreamcast until I remember the Black Sonic, and I was like, oh, Shadow. I was like, yeah, Shadow was up on there. Like, okay, I'm tripping. I remember playing it, but I don't remember it as clearly as Sonic Adventure. It was a long time ago, man. I'm getting old, folks. But Sonic Adventure 2 just not making the top 3. But with that being said, it's time to get into the big 3, folks. Big 3 most voted on. These 3 all did over 115 votes. Like, this one came in at 116 votes, just beating out Sonic Adventure by 3 votes. And that is Power Stone 2, man. I ain't going front. Power Stone 1 and 2 were both dope, so I can't really be mad. I probably would have personally put Power Stone 1 over 2 just because I don't recall them as clearly as I'd like to. I want to say that they have more characters on part 2, and maybe that's why people gave part 2 the nod. And you know what? I wouldn't even be mad about it because they're both pretty much the same game, just additional characters or whatnot. But Power Stone 2 got voted on, and damn, it got mad love. So salute to the people in all these groups for putting Power Stone 2 into the top 3. It was so close to looking like it was going to be a shutout for Sonic the Hedgehog, who comes in at number 2. That's right, Sonic Adventure. Man, this is the last Sega system. And how fitting for a Sonic Hedgehog game. It would have been fitting if it got number 1, considering this is the last of Sonic, the the last of the Sega Dreamcast games or whatnot. But Sonic Adventure #1, man, the soundtrack on Sonic Adventure by itself is just memorable. You know what I'm saying? It had one of the great soundtracks. Man, this game was so fresh. This game was fun as fuck. Man, it was like playing the regular Sonic games, but just like turned up. You know what I'm saying? Like to the next level. They really wish that Sega came out with another system after this, because man, the Dreamcast had some good ass games on it, bro. Like it kind of shocked. Like this was its final hoorah, considering all these good games on it. Sonic, Power Stone, Crazy Taxi, man. Like this is the Soul Calibur series got its start. Jet Set Radio, bro. Like man, there was so many fire games that came out on the Dreamcast. So rest in peace to the Sega systems. But yeah, Sonic Adventure #1 coming in at #2 on the top 10 list. And by far, this is the most votes on any one of these top 10 I got. This vote came in with 182 votes. By far, by a good 40 votes, this game was #1 on the Sega Dreamcast. Y'all should know what this game is. Obviously, I'm talking about Marvel vs. Capcom 2, bro. I'm so happy because, bro, it's so rare. This is only the second time I've done every game system from Nintendo down. I didn't do Atari because I never owned an Atari, but I did Nintendo, Sega, Super Nintendo, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, Nintendo 64, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, now Sega Dreamcast. This is only the second time that my #1 game on the system is the same game that everybody agreed on. This in the PlayStation 1 Final Fantasy VII. Only time we saw eye to eye on these polls, people. So I'm glad y'all got it right this time. Y'all have done right by me. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, #1. This to me is my favorite fighting game of all time. I ain't gonna front. Like same thing I had with Street Fighter 3. Like this is my game when it first came out and played it and everything. But then like a couple of years go by, and then I end up going to college, and at the arcade, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 was up in there. And this was that game. Like every fighting game I played at that school, I was getting washed by these other gamers and stuff. I was getting out geeked. But this was the one I recall. I was putting in work, and it made one of the little gamers so mad that who owned the arcade. He took the game home, was like, fuck that. I'm about to go study this game and come back and like figure out who's the best characters to play with. You know, they found out the little 100-hit combos, take your whole fucking life bar away and shit. But I was still over there holding it down, holding my own, but it just did not. But they ended up wedging the gap. You know what I'm saying? They ended up being able to come back and do their work. So Marvel vs. Capcom 2 definitely coming in at #1, man. So salute to everybody for your votes. I appreciate y'all for tuning in for Marvel vs. Capcom 2, or actually for the top 10 5-star Pod Splash review, man. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 coming in at #1. Thank y'all. Make sure y'all tune in and look out for the next episode. Peace.